there. Welcome to I'm Set, the podcast. I'm Danisha Rolle, founder and CEO of Sports and Entertainment Today. It is a platform that boasts digital, print, and events. And we are now rolling out I'm Set, the podcast. I'm so excited to have Natasha Paul and Adrianna Smith joining me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Paul, and I am better known as Sports Talk Tasha, as Danisha met me, and Adrianna knew me as well. I have done everything from podcasting. I have covered sports. I've covered the Miami Heat. I've covered NFL. And I am the stats girl. So I watch the games. I know the plays. I know, all the technical aspect of the game. And that's what I am here to do.
Hey everyone, my name is Adrianna, and I am a former Miami Heat dancer, former Miami Dolphin cheerleader. So I'm the one who is so used to being on the sidelines cheering on your favorite athlete or team. And I'm just so excited to be here. I think this is going to be so amazing, and I'm so excited for everything that we're going to talk about on this podcast.
Yeah, so let's talk about how we met, right?
The most random.
So you mentioned the Miami Heat game, and I do not even remember exactly how we met.
I will never forget it because the game had just finished, and after the game, I was media at the time. We have to go to wait in line to get into the press room and interview the players in the locker room or what have you. So I'm waiting in line, and I just hear this voice, "Sports Talk Tasha," and I'm like, what? So I look around, and I see Danisha, and she's like, "I'm Danisha Rolle, I'm with Set, and I need to connect with you. I'm following you right now, and follow me back." So I was like, okay, and that's how we met.
True Danisha Rolle fashion, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Now, I do remember, though, you saying we need to connect with Adrianna Smith. Do you know her? And I do know that I was following you.
Right.
But I had not met you. And so what made you feel like Adrianna was a fit?
So I met Adrianna way back, probably like 10 years ago.
Like, it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, and I had no idea how young Adrianna was because she presents herself so mature and so eloquently. So what happened was she asked me if we could just have lunch so she could pick my brain, and I was like, okay. We met, we had lunch, and I was like, this girl is sharp, like super sharp. And the other day, Adrianna actually told me how old she was, and I was like, no way, no way, this girl is amazing. But when you said you needed some fresh ideas for Set, I was like, you know what, I think you know Adrianna, and I think we need to bring her in.
Yes.
And what was crazy about that is at the time when, Instagram was rolling out, I started blogging on Instagram with sports news. And that's how I ended up connecting with Tasha because there was somebody, Curls,
Yes, Erica.
who pretty much connected me with you. And then my friend Teresa actually tagged me in one of your posts and was like, hey, like, this is somebody you should connect with because you were doing like sports and entertainment. And everybody knew at that time, like, I was very, very big in the sports and entertainment industry. But I remember a friend of mine was actually speaking at your event. Is how we met, like, in person. And she was like, you should come. And I was coming there just to help and support her. And she was like, you should meet Danisha. That's when we finally met in person because I was on the Heat at the time when we actually met. I think you did like a level up event. Yes. And that's how we actually
Miami.
Like connected.
I remember that. It's amazing. And this is one thing about connecting with people and being open to connect with people and being willing to like take a ride. Because this has literally been a journey from building out Instagram to, sharing ideas to now wanting to even share our thoughts and feelings about things, with all of our audience. So I just want to say that I'm grateful for you guys, and I am looking forward to what I'm Set, the podcast, is going to do.
Absolutely. And I think we all bring different perspectives to the equation because obviously you are married to Samari Rolle for almost 20 years.
Yes.
And your perspective is like, you're in there. You have been in the trenches.
Tried and true.
Right,
Tried
exactly.
And true.
And then I'm the perspective of a journalist. I have, seen the athletes from the side of, I'm going to write a story about them. And sometimes us media people are not friendly, but we still got to get our stories out. And that's, it's our job. And then Adrianna,
Listen,
again.
I'm the life person, I'm the one that you know, what many people don't know is me wanting to be an NFL agent fresh out of college and interning at a sports agency and realizing, like, you know, agents don't really care too much about the purpose aspect or the life aspect of the athletes, and me just having friends who went into the league and just seeing certain personal issues they have gone through. It's like I'm always the one trying to give a different perspective that's going to help with the life aspect. And, you know, with me doing the thing called the huddle, just gathering people, building champions, and having athletes involved to really help them become everything they were called and created to be outside of sports. Because, you know, we could be honest, there comes a time where, you know, sports, the career comes to an end, right? And so what happens after that? So just being able to just shed light on that and just add in wisdom, I'm just excited to just be here because I believe this is going to be so amazing.
Love it, love it, love it. So some of the topics that we have for this podcast, just this week, we got to see Damar Hamlin. And such, I mean, that was horrific what happened to him on the field. So for me, watching that, guys, and seeing Stephon Diggs in tears and, you know, the entire world, it felt like stopped because we were on bated breath. So many commercial breaks, just waiting to see what happened. Where were you watching the game? What were your thoughts?
So I was in my bed. I was literally in my bed. I'm watching the game, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I just saw somebody die on an NFL field. Like, I could not even believe what I saw. And my sister is a doctor. She's not a cardiologist, but she is a physician. And I text her, and I was like, what is this? And she texts me what she thought it is. I can't even pronounce it because it's a medical term, but it turned out that was what it is. It's where a blunt force trauma to the chest causes cardiac arrest, which is exactly what happened to him. And, you know, none of us have ever seen anything like that. And what even shocked me was that the NFL was okay with saying, oh, we're gonna play this game after watching grown men cry. You don't see grown men cry, especially NFL players. Like, they don't typically show their emotions like that. And they were broken. You can tell they were broken because they don't know if their friend is alive, dead. They don't know anything. They just watch them not breathe for 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
And continue on. And I was so shocked, and I was very proud of the players and the coaches that said, no, this is not happening.
There was no way. Everyone was too shook up. I mean, it had to be called. Even in the moment, I'm like, there's no way they can continue this game because my emotions were all over the place. So I could only imagine what the players were feeling on the field.
But it's honestly sad, though, even as you're talking about that, Natasha, the fact that somebody literally collapsed on the field, and the mindset was still, we got to keep the game going, you know? And
it's a business.
And
They're a business.
It's a business, right? And I think that's what we don't really talk about enough, how much of a business the sport really is. But I'm just so happy that the coaches and the players did take a stand and say, no, we're not going to play. Like, this is somebody's life. At the end of the day, somebody's life is more important than this sport.
Absolutely. Then the game. It's a game. It's entertainment.
It's the entertainment. And I really want fans to also understand that because you had some people mad.
Right.
I
mean, Stephen A. Smith, not Stephen A. Smith.
Skip Bayless.
Skip Bayless is his
That
tweet.
was a very insensitive tweet.
Oh,
and he has not taken it down. And he has absolutely stood firm that he's standing by that tweet. And that is beyond reproach for me. Like, I can't even believe that, you know, this man has gotten so desensitized by his opinions and his beliefs and his convictions that he can't see the human side of this.
Right.
But here's the truth. A lot of people's minds are conditioned like that when it comes to the sport. If we're going to be honest,
it's true.
It's a real thing.
It's a business.
It's a business at the end of the day. So it's like if they did stop the game, which we happy they did, right? But did they really want to do that? No. Because you're losing money, you know, the fans are mad, and we just forget how human these athletes are. You know, yes, it's great for entertainment. We want to see who's going to win, you know, who's going to the playoffs. But at the end of the day, somebody literally collapsed on the field. And like you said, he died for like 9 minutes. Like, and somebody's child, you know.
His mom was there in the stands.
And that is the most uncanny part to me. It's an away game, right? And she just happened to be there
exactly
at this game. Thank God she was there, because I could not imagine My child collapsing on a field and me having to fly. It's late at night. Chances are there were no flights or drive because mama is going to be there for their cub, right? So how could, it just for her to be there, it was just, I feel like it were so many things that were working that I say that God is good, So
But I just love how the world actually came together, in this moment to pray for him, to support him and to shower him with love, his charity, getting the amount of money that it has received, just so people could express their love and their support for him and just wanting him to recover and to get well. And I just think that was just so powerful to really see, even now with the NFL, just all these players just standing behind him and to let him know, Damar know, like, hey, like, we're with you. We're standing behind you. We want you to recover well. And I think that was just so important for us to actually see that something that could have been a tragedy, turned into something really good at the end because it brought so many people from all over the world together to support this one individual.
Absolutely.
So the thing that actually struck me too is that the team worked out a way so that his contract is fully guaranteed. He's going to get all his money, what have you. But this is a one-time exception. We know NFL contracts are not guaranteed, and
Sadly.
they get hurt. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. I have heard, and I know you guys have too, in the past where there have been NFL contracts for guys who have had, they found a heart condition or they found something, and those guys were released from the team because they could no longer play, and that's it. They don't get their money. But in this one exception, maybe because it was such a global story and all eyes are on this and what is the team going to do, so they're like, okay, we got to respond and we got to show good face. But was that what it really was? Are they going to show good face for the other guys who might potentially get hurt in the future? No, because it's not going to be a global spot. What are the chances of somebody collapsing like that on the field and being non-responsive? Again, it's not a typical situation. So what's going to happen in the future to the rest of the guys?
So showing good face to me would be them really making moves to make these contracts guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like that is really what the NFL needs to do because there are so many guys that are struggling that have given their all for the sport of football and laid it on the line Sunday after Sunday for the NFL.
Right.
Right. And football is honestly the most dangerous sport outside of the NBA and Major League Baseball and hockey. At the end of the day, a player can go out on that field and not make it, right? You're taking blows to your head, and now these players are living with CTE and just all this different stuff. And so I do think that, honestly, the NFL should start reconsidering making their contracts more guaranteed so that way these players can have something in case something like that does happen to them.
Yeah. So when you think about it, Damar Hamlin's charity has, people have donated more than he would have ever made.
Absolutely.
So when we think about that in the scheme of things, it's really sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful for his charity
Right.
and wonderful for his ability to, make an amazing impact in the community. But at the same time, your life is on the line for this sport, for entertainment.
They're gladiators. That's 100%. I had spoke with a friend of mine, and her husband is a psychiatrist. And she said, outside of watching the movie Gladiator, this is the Gladiator. Like these guys go out there and they're like beating each other up. It's like, you have a point.
Interesting.
And even as we were talking, like, the mindset as well. Like, as soon as he woke up, he's like, who won the game, know? And, yes, it was a funny thing, like, oh, wow, but it's like, wow, something that tragic happened and football is still the priority.
Right.
And how many athletes have really been conditioned to eat, breathe, live, and die for a sport and an organization that honestly don't feel the same way about them. It's like, it's a business. You're here to make us money, right? You're here to perform and produce, and the moment we feel as though that you can no longer do that, we're going to cut you. We don't really care about what happens with you and your family after that. On to the next,
Right.
So I just hope that this situation honestly begins to check the heart, right, of those who are in these higher positions that can actually make a change for these players. We actually need them not to do this good PR stuff, right, to make them look good, but now is really time to really make a change because these players have been advocating in private. They've been fighting for this in private. We've seen a lot of cases with CT and certain things happen brushed under the rug because they don't really want to deal with it. They don't want it to have that big type of publicity. But now something like this happens, it's like, okay, we have to make a move, but we want to make sure like this is not just because
Not a one and done.
the whole world is watching.
I think the biggest thing is that the NFLPA has to grow a backbone.
Oof.
Like, for real. They have not done enough for the players. It's been very much an NFL-run situation. NFL, the owners, they dictate how and when and where and why. The NFLPA, they got to step up and one of the things they have to address is money for these players and how are we keeping these guys safe?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So another topic this week, we're looking at Cristiano Ronaldo and the mother of his children. You know, now they are going to Saudi Arabia, and he has asked that they sort of bend the law and allow him to live with his, you know, the mother of his children, who is not his wife, Georgina.
She's his domestic partner. Okay, listen.
I mean,
So I'll let you go.
no, you can go ahead because you can go ahead, sis.
So here's my thing. Normally, I would like to stay out of people's business, but when you have somebody as super famous as Ronaldo, it's hard to stay out of your business. Like you hear celebrities say it all the time. I wish I could have, no, you cannot have privacy. We're sorry. This is the life you chose. Get over it. So his girlfriend is a very young Latina woman. She's Argentinian, she's 28, they have twins together. I think all in all, it's probably 5 total kids that are all with him. And she raises them, I think. Don't quote me on this. So there's nothing in this world that can tell me that she does not want to be married because it is in the Latina culture. The Latin culture is that the woman is raised to be married and be the caretaker of the family. That's just what it is. We live in South Florida and we see it. It's very rare for me to find a Hispanic woman that says, I don't want to be married and I just want my career and I just want to be by myself. It doesn't happen. Rare. It can happen, but it's rare.
Yeah. I don't know. The fact that they're even bending the law for me is insane.
It's all about the Benjis.
But I mean, the fact that you have to go to that extent, like, look, can we bend the law so I don't have to marry her?
I know.
Like, let's talk about that because to that extent, you're going. All you have, like, you've been with this woman for a good enough time to know if this is somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with. And, you know, I think it's that fear of like, I don't know if I want to touch that, if I want to get married, but it's the fact that he's really going to that extent of, let's bend this law because I'd rather bend the law before I marry you, in a sense.
Right.
And it's Sharia law. They do not play. That is a culture that is very, very strict and very about their rules and the way things are run, especially when it comes to the family unit. So this is a big deal.
I'm anxious to see how it's all going to play out. You know, is she one of those ones that's like, maybe she doesn't want to get married? We've gotten to see that. In celebrity world, we're looking at city girls,
She is not a city girl.
not wanting to marry P. Diddy.
But really, you know, I think sometimes as women, and we do this, right? We typically compromise, and because we love somebody so much, and we will kill our desires on what we really want just so we can have what we think we really want.
Right.
And so when we hear people say, well, I don't want to be married, and some people really don't want to be married, but for her, if he was to propose to her, right, she's not telling him no. So
That's an interesting take.
So if you have to think about, if you're saying that I don't want to be married, I'm okay with not being married, then if he was to propose to you, then you will still have that same energy. But if he was to come and bring you a ring and say, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and you're so happy, like, oh my God, like, yes, I will spend the rest of my life with you, then that lets us know that deep down in your heart, you really desired marriage. But because you did not think that it will be attainable with the person that you're with, you have sold yourself this lie that I really don't want to be married. And that's not true. And I think women typically do that for the most part. So I do believe if he was to pop the question, she would be, yes, yes, happy, So, no, I don't, to each his own, right? You have some who really do feel like, no, they don't, but.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Let me ask you a question, because we saw in a recent interview, Carisha say, some women want to be a wife. That's not me. I don't want to be married. Do you think that if Diddy proposed to her and was like, listen, Carisha, you are it. I don't want to be with anybody else. I will marry you and be faithful to you and whatever. You think she'll say yeah?
Absolutely.
First of all, that's a super hypothetical. Because I really don't think Diddy would ever do that.
Really?
Never.
I mean, he didn't do it
He's
with
had
Kim,
some of the baddest,
right?
most beautiful women, amazing mothers. And we see that, with the women that are now mothers, right, that he was with. I just don't see it. I don't see him ever doing that. So it's a hypothetical. But if he did, what do I think she would do? I don't think she'd say no.
Exactly. So if you don't think she would say no, do you really think she don't want to be a wife?
Well, there you have it.
Maybe she doesn't think she wants to be a wife now, like you say, but, as time passes. And we got to remember, too, these girls are young. Like, I don't know how old Carisha is, but she's still in her 20s, and Georgina is 28. These girls are still young and still, when I was 28, I was fist pumping on South Beach. So I was not thinking about marriage at all. You could catch me on the couch.
you were okay with friends with benefits?
Yeah, I had friends with benefits.
Yeah, okay. But did you ever say to yourself, you know what, I want to be married. I want to be a wife.
So I had relationships. I actually was in a relationship with someone who was actually like 9 years younger than me for 5 years.
Cool.
Yes, I was. They call me QC, Queen Cougar, at the time. So I was in a relationship with someone for 5 years, and not once did I ever look at him and think, I want to marry this guy. Not once. I was okay with cohabitating with him, but not once was I like, oh, I hope he proposes to me tomorrow. No.
So you didn't look at him as marriage material?
I didn't. And in retrospect, when we broke up, he told me I wasted 5 years of his life. I probably did, poor guy.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Wow.
It wasn't intentional, but it happened. But I mean, at the time, I was just like, I was comfortable having him there because he was warm and fuzzy, but I never thought, oh my God, I want to marry this man.
I don't know, I always thought of myself as a wife. I always wanted to be married. I wanted to have children. And so if I ever encountered someone that said that that's not what they wanted, then I knew immediately that wasn't the one for me. So I wasn't going to compromise in any way or waste time with someone that, that's not what they were ready for.
Mm-hmm. Right. So. I agree. And I just think, like I said, each his own. I want to be a wife, okay? I want to be married. That's it.
Put it out there.
I've been over here waiting, Lord. Waiting. Jesus, send me my husband, Lord. But, I just think to each his own, but I always say there's a reason behind a reason. And you always, sometimes traumatic situations or, being in certain relationships or, the household you grow up in and what you saw, the example of marriage that you saw, sometimes that make people say, I don't want no parts of that, right? It's not because it's not really a desire, but the trauma and the things people have saw within marriages. And then also when you see so many marriages failing, it'll make you be like, you know what, I'm okay with this, playing it like this, me cohabiting.
And you hear so many girls saying now, I get more than the wife. I'm doing better than the wife. So why would I want that?
But, I think people need to understand, like, covenants, right? You got to understand, you're not really doing better than the wife, even though you think you're doing better than the wife. Because at the end of the day, that's the wife.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's the wife. No matter how he plays it, how he spins it, he can decide one day and be like, you know what, I really want to be with my wife.
I think we're getting, for a moment, it just seemed like marriage was something that some people were getting away from it, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like there is now a push to have family, to have, now there are the Nick Cannons of the world, but we're beginning to see that there are so many people that really want like that family unit.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy to see that, more of that in media now.
And that's why I love seeing like LeBron with his family.
Right.
Steph.
Yes, like we need to see more families in that way. Healthy marriages, fathers being present. And even
Right.
as we talked about, the Nick Cannon situation, a lot of people are praising that, but what we don't understand is like these kids will never really be in a household with their mother and their father. And so we're producing broken homes. We always talk about breaking generational curses. It's not just making money, but it's also making sure that your kids don't grow up in a dysfunctional household. Your kids don't grow up seeing, people in and out the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just
Absolutely.
think, things like that, we need to see more healthy families, more healthy marriages. And I just think this generation has drifted so far away from that because we don't have enough examples of healthy families and marriages.
And, this generation has also gotten to a point where they don't respect relationships. You see people saying, well, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have somebody who thinks they're your girlfriend? Like, you have to ask all these questions.
Yeah.
But some people just don't ask these questions. They don't care. And even if they find out, they still don't care. Like, okay, well, y'all aren't really married, so what's the big deal?
Speaking of marriages, okay, so Danisha, we know that you are married to a former NFL player, and I'm sure you have come across so many different women who will be like, you know what, I want this lifestyle, I want to be married to this. And since we're talking about this, how has your marriage last for this long? Like, what advice can you give, those who are watching right now, also women who aspire to be like, I want to marry a man of that caliber? Like, what advice can you give them?
Well, first of all, it's a process. This is a journey, right? So 19 years has not been all, a bed of roses. We have had our ups and downs. So there are certain things, though, when we first got together that we established. Because my father has 10 children, my mother only has 4. So I got to see what infidelity looked like and the hurt that it caused, not just the wife, but the children. So that to me was something that I never wanted to experience. And so when Samari and I were just friends, we were able to talk about infidelity. And he got to see with his mother and his father what that looked like. And so when we talked candidly, he said that what my mother went through is something that I never want to put anyone through. And so that was for me like an endearing moment, where I really got to see his heart and, the things that our values aligned. So I think for many people, having those candid conversations in the beginning, establishing what are your boundaries, what are your non-negotiables, really help as you are building, your relationship and your future. Now, as it progressed, we got to see how money changes things. We talked about those guaranteed contracts. Well, we had a situation where Samari was getting ready to be released, and he didn't know where he was going to go. Well, it was very rocky because, like so many men, he withdrew, and I'm a communicator,
Right.
and I want to talk things out. But for him, he wanted, to be to himself and work it out in his own head. And we wound up in a huge argument, which escalated into a fight, which ended up with us being on ESPN, and he was released from the team. So we had to work through, are we going to make this relationship work? What does a disagreement look like? What does when you feel like you're going to be on the unemployment line, which is as though, for him, it was as though he was going to be on the unemployment line, when really you're being released from a team and you're going to go to the next team. So we had to work through that. So I really do think, as we say, the seasons of life, you really need to see how someone operates through the seasons of life. And so we've been able to weather those storms, go through marital counseling, determine that this is where we both want to be. And it has been 19 years and 4 children. And so I would tell any young couple or people that are even, you've been in a relationship for a while, number one, where do you want to be? And if this is who you really see yourself being with, then how are you going to weather the storms? Are we going to communicate? You know, or are you going to withdraw? Does that work for us? Do we need to take a moment where we both retreat? Or, you know, are we going to talk this thing out? And you inevitably will have to, especially if you have children, because, you know, those kids are watching. You know, so do you want your kids to see you arguing and fighting?
Right.
How do you, you know, deal with disagreements? Those are the things that I would tell any couple that they need to really consider. And then also, you'll go through those stages where I know he said to me, girl, you spreading. You know, you need to get in the gym. We joke with one another. You know, age happens, right? And I'll, you know, joke with him, like, you need to get in the gym. So how do you deal with that? You know, because I'm sure there might be a moment where he's not attracted or I'm not attracted, real talk. Where you have to say, okay, Lord, what do we do here, right? And that is where I think so many people, the infidelity, the images on Instagram, you can be tainted by that. Yeah. So for us, it has really been, you say how you feel, you know, and we're never hurting one another's feelings, but at the same time, if I need to get up and get in the gym, and y'all might see me on my stories at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I see you.
I'm going to be in the gym because I need to get it right.
I don't know how she wakes up at 6, but I'll slide in the gym at 10. I promise. I'll be there.
So there's that, you know. So I would say for me, I knew I wanted to be a wife. I knew I wanted to be a mom. I knew I wanted to, you know, have a stable unit. And so for those ladies that want that, you know, there are certain standards that you have to establish for yourself. And as you're dating, don't compromise. Now, on the flip side of it, you know, there were some things that were on my list of must-haves. Some I didn't have all of those things, but I had to say, Lord, send me who you would have for me. And I believe wholeheartedly that a 3-strand cord is not easily broken. And if you have yourself and that person and you incorporate your faith, I think the sky's the limit for your relationship. Now, when you see that, you know, certain things, whether it's violence or inability to handle funds or, you know, mistreatment of children, certain things you just don't need to deal with in a relationship. And so you have to figure out how you're going to navigate that.
Really good advice.
She said a mouthful, which is good. But like really help the girls who really are striving to be like, I want to be an NFL wife. I want to be an NBA wife. Like that is the goal because, you know, you get on social media and, you know, the lifestyle looks good, right? You know, all the women are top tier. They're in designer. They're in the big houses. And that's what they think the life is like. So can you give them a little like reality of what it really is like being a wife of somebody of that caliber?
Absolutely. So to say I want to be an NFL wife or I want to be, you know, an athlete's wife, right? So for most people, you just, like you said, it's the glitz, the glamour, the what you think, the, you know, the contracts, because now girls are Googling the contracts. But I will say that you have to really know that there is so much more to it. There is, you know, you want to, and let me retract just a moment, because there's girls that will set themselves up, be in position, right? And you even have girls that have dated multiple athletes. And I don't remember the young lady's name. You guys might remember her, but she spoke to Deion Sanders' team.
Oh, Brittany Renner.
Brittany Renner, who has the child by the NBA player, and she's
PJ Washington.
PJ Washington,
there you
correct.
go. So you have some girls who have gone through traumatic things, and they get with a celebrity, you know, and they feel like, I have to be with this person because I can't go back to my life, right?
That's good.
Now, you have some people that are, and the majority of athletes that I know that are married, their significant other brings a tremendous amount to the table. So when I look at girls, and there are so many, the Brittany Renners of the world who have spoken to athletes about the guys that are in their DMs with the checks, right?
Right.
So she's a smart girl. She's articulate. She's really, you know, now she's coming into her own and really seeing her value. I feel like a lot of these girls really need to first focus on themselves. What do they have to bring to the table? And I say that because if you don't know yourself, it leads to a very rocky life. And that is where eyes wander, where, you know, taste changes, where there can be a lot of confusion because you don't really know who you are. And you can sometimes pressure someone or push them to a place where, you know what, I'm stressed out because you don't know who you are. And I don't know who I am, and we don't complement one another. Now, on the flip side of it, those girls that really have it going on, that are focused in, you know, whether it's school or their career or, you know, really whatever it is that they're doing, to me, I've seen it where it just really is a match made in heaven because you have someone else who's focused and you guys both can come together and complement one another.
Well said.
Well said. Listen, she just dropped some gems, just helped you out.
Always focus on yourself first. Find yourself first.
Absolutely.
If you love yourself, it's easy for somebody to love you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, ladies, we are definitely coming to a close of our introduction to the people because this is just a snippet of what it is they're going to get. So, I mean, any last words that anybody want to share?
I would just say this is going to be the podcast to watch because our different perspectives, our you know, takes on sports and entertainment is going to be fresh. It is going to be very much inspirational and very much adding value to the people that are watching.
Absolutely. And I really think that, you know, piggybacking on what you're saying, we are from different worlds, you know, all three of us. And I think that's really gonna, like you said, bring a fresh perspective to each topic that we talk about. We're gonna have some amazing guests as well. Don't think it's gonna be just the three of us talking all the time. So we have some surprises for you, and I want you guys to really take note of that.
And I'm just looking so forward to us growing, right? I'm looking forward to when, you know, we look back a year from now and we see how much we've grown and just watch this episode over and be like, wow, just look how much we have grown. And I'm excited to bring everybody on the journey with us because this is going to be so amazing, so impactful, and I think it's needed in the sports and entertainment world. And I'm just so excited to be alongside of you ladies and for us to really kill it out here.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to I'm Set Podcast, first episode.
Make sure you subscribe as well, please.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and subscribe.
Yes. Click like and share.